Auditing. And chairman of the session is CA Vivek Krishna Govind. I invite you, sir, onto the stage. I also invite the paper presenters onto the stage as well. CA Vivek Krishna Govind. He's a chartered accountant with over 20 years of practical experience in the field of audit, taxation, and management consultancy. He's a senior partner of Messrs. Varma and Varma Chartered Accountants. He qualified the CA final examinations with the ICAI award for highest marks in Kerala. He served as the chairman of Ernakulam branch of ICAI in the year 2010-11, during the year in which the branch was awarded the best branch. He held the position of president of Kerala Management Association in 2017-18. We're indeed lucky to have you here, sir, as the session chairman of this technical session, Auditing.
Good afternoon to all of you. SICASA Chairman Salim and my young friends on stage, and to all the SICASA team SICASA present here. I think we're all, I'm sure all of you present here are probably wanted back in your offices, because that's the kind of pressure that is currently prevalent. Unfortunately, we were hoping that there would be some extension of all these dates before this conference. If so, I'm sure there have been good times when it was even difficult to enter into the hall. That's the kind of crowd which we've had for SICASA conferences in this very hall in the past. I've been fortunate enough to be the chairman of SICASA twice. So I know the kind of fun we've had in the very same hall, and partying all evening, Stephen Devasi performing here. I still can't forget those days where, then we had to close the doors because even the corridors and pathways were so full, there was no way to even, we didn't want stampede inside. That is the kind of, energy and crowds which we've seen here. But now, unfortunately, thanks to COVID, two, because of income tax, ROC, some form extension has happened, but I don't think that's going to be good enough for our students to be back in the hall. Anyway, on that note, I must first appreciate our three young friends who have taken a lot of effort, I'm sure, and their papers have come out very well, particularly our young friend from Hyderabad who has traveled great distances to be here. I think let's give him an extra round of applause for having traveled all the way. By no means am I diluting the effort of my young friends from Cochin, but in these difficult times, it's the effort to travel. I know how tough it is to travel, and to think that he's come all the way for a paper presentation itself is quite admirable. Now, moving on to the topic on hand, I'll, as session chairman, keep my views to the bare minimum. I had, most of you were here present this morning. I had to do a substitute job since MPV had to rush and catch a flight, so I don't want an overexposure of my thoughts on you. Accounting standards in the morning and auditing standards in the afternoon. So my job is only to facilitate the session here. We have three youngsters here who have taken great pains, and the quality of their presentation papers itself goes to show the amount of hard work that has actually gone into these three papers. So the first speaker will talk on standards on auditing, and this friends, I must say, is something which is very, very important and critical. When I started my career, it was not mandatory. Only accounting standards, and that too, very few accounting standards were mandatory. Rest were all only recommendatory, and the auditing standards used to be called differently then. It was auditing and assurance standard, AAS at that point, and these were only recommendatory, just a direction given by ICAI. Ideally, professionals are required to read through it and go through it and comply with it if possible. That is all it was. But then times changed, particularly around the Satyam scam, and thereafter the whole profession changed. The way our profession was viewed was completely different. So the element of skepticism that needs to come into profession was brought in by making the accounting standard, the auditing standards mandatory for us. And thereafter, a lot of standards have come in, around 38 odd standards today across 6 categories, and more coming in. There are many more which are likely to come. We may end up with 50, 60, 70 auditing standards as time progresses, because a lot of developments are happening and new standards are required to take care of the developments in the profession also. But most importantly, we need to understand that what are these standards? These are basically meant to help us as professionals. We should not think that auditing standards are only for auditors. MPV mentioned that in the morning. So there sometimes seems to be some degree of misunderstanding that auditing standard means it is only for auditors. It's not for auditors as such. It is for the work that we do. So it is equally binding on the client. It is equally binding on any stakeholder concerned. Any stakeholder can question us for non-compliance of auditing standard. It's not just that ICAI alone is not the only body which can pull us up. There are several. SEBI can ask us why our auditing standards have not been complied. ROC can ask us why, because these have now become mandatory. The Companies Act itself, 143.2, 143.9, etc., have mandated auditing standards now to be complied. So SAs have to be complied with. The Schedule 2 of the CA Act is also talking about it. So various things, and it's also in various stages of, changes are happening in various statutes, which are bringing this in slowly. So as and when amendments happen in various statutes, we'll very soon see that this will, have an impact on auditing standards becoming mandatory across the board. So this is the first topic. Very, very interesting topic. Particularly, I hope the speaker will also talk a little bit on documentation also, because end of the day, that's what it all boils down to. You need to convince another external person, whether it be the quality review board or the peer review board or SEBI or enforcement directorate or whoever else who wants to come and poke into our files. We must have necessary documentation for that. So all these other large number of standards finally point towards this, whether it be materiality or whether it be sampling or whether it be any other techniques. It all finally boils down to how well it is all documented in the file. Unfortunately, that is where the problem is also. In our profession, people work very well and professionals are very knowledgeable. But many a time what we do and the files, there is a gap there, and that needs to be addressed, has to necessarily be addressed, because its times are bad, dangerous. So that's on standards. And when I talk about dangerous, I will immediately, take it to the next topic, which is on frauds. The danger is frauds, and it's happening everywhere. At any point in time, all of us in profession are now today really worried. It's gone beyond skepticism to being scared now. You never know what's going on. You never know. In the smallest of clients to the largest of listed entities, banks and public sector companies, everywhere we are today seeing frauds in various forms. And thanks to technology, it's becoming increasingly difficult for us to catch these frauds also. Very, very difficult. We are talking about high value transaction, and number of line items are running into lakhs and crores, and somebody does some tweaking in the system, and we are not IT professionals per se, so it's not easy for us with our knowledge on audit and our knowledge on various techniques for us to actually identify frauds is getting to be increasingly difficult. The whole question, are you a watchdog or a bloodhound, has been a question for the longest time. When we were students, we were always told you are only a watchdog, you're not a bloodhound. Today the situation has changed. There was a time where it became first it was a statement, you are only a watchdog, then became a question, are you a watchdog? Today watchdog and all that gone. You have to go beyond being a bloodhound and all that. You should. That's the kind of world that we are living in, and anywhere anything goes wrong, fingers are first pointed at us. So that's the problem. So we need to be very, very we need to really understand that, and there are standards on that, 240, which talks about frauds. That's also going to be talked about. And then coming to that directly, it relates to the whole remote audit world that we live in. That's the third topic that we have today. Very difficult times. Last year and a half, several large listed companies, banks, etc., we've all had to sit and do the audit sitting at home without even visiting once, in different cities. People sitting across, sometimes in different time zones and different countries, are sitting and auditing without actually physically visiting the locations, and through the VPN and video conferencing and Zoom and whatnot. VDR, mode of document access systems. Those of you who handle large audits, you would have seen how all these things are working, and the kind of problems we faced, particularly in 2020, was terrible. 21 slightly improved because we understood where things are not happening, and hopefully 22 we'll all be better prepared for this remote audit. So that's going to be the third topic. Very, very interesting topics, very, very much connected also. So I'll hand it back to the MC desk to introduce the first speaker, and we can take it forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for those insights on all three subjects for this technical session. The first paper of the session is presented by Ms. Nitina R. Jacob. She's a CA intermediate student pursuing articleship at Balan & Company, Ernakulam. She received the first prize for debate competition and second prize for best presentation competition conducted as a part of CA students talent hunt competition at branch level, Ernakulam branch. And presentation held by Ernakulam branch of SICASA of ICAI. The topic of her paper is Standards on Audit and Overview. Over to you, Nitina.
BC, during the Roman Empire, the emperors used to appoint few talented young men whom they used to consider trustworthy to make sure that the governors who used to rule the provinces took care of the assets properly, took care of the expenses and the incomes properly, and especially made sure the taxes were properly collected and used properly and sent back to the king. Now, roughly about 3,000 years later, the Henry I of England was the first to coin the word audit. Now, audit also means to hear. Now, what he did was, just like the Romans, he also appointed auditors whom he considered trustworthy to make sure that the barons who used to rule the lands on behalf of him collected the taxes properly from the people and sent them back to the king. Now, around 1,000 years later, during the Industrial Revolution, during that time, and that was a time when the audit, the processed audit that we see today was formed. And that was the first time when the investors were first brought into the business. Now, these investors needed assurance regarding the companies that they were going to invest in. Now, what they did was they also appointed auditors to make sure the incomes, the expenses, the liabilities, and the assets of the companies were properly taken care of. Everything was okay with the company, and they needed a report, an assurance from that person that the companies were properly maintained and there was no corruption in that company. And they also appointed people whom they considered trustworthy. Now, the process of audit kept on changing throughout years, right from the Roman period till today. But there was one thing that did not change: trust, or trustworthiness. And that points us to the importance of standards on auditing. Now, if I start talking more about standards in auditing, if I start explaining a lot, I won't be able to finish in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So, I have divided my whole topic into few parts. First, I'll start with an introduction, then talk about the legal requirements of standards in auditing, then talk about classification, then about the overview, and I'll give an overview of the standards and also cover the key aspects covered in standards on auditing. Now, standards on auditing is basically the Quran, the Bible, the Gita for an auditor. It tells everything what a chartered accountant or an auditor needs to do, what they shouldn't do, what they should be doing. Everything is covered in standards in auditing. It basically acts as an evidence, a justification for all the actions done by the auditor. Now, it's a common saying that standards in auditing is usually required only, it needs to be followed by those auditors who do the audit of huge firms, for big firms with big volume, etc. But that would be just like asking a person not to wear helmet for small vehicles and only wear helmet for the big vehicles. That doesn't make sense. standards on auditing needs to be followed by every auditor, irrespective of the size or the legal form of what company they are auditing. So that leads us to certain legal requirements to follow standards on auditing. Now, the strict adherence to standards, to follow standards on auditing started off in the year 2009. The Satyam scam, how can we all forget? The 7,000 crore scam that almost permanently changed, permanently altered the corporate governance landscape of the country. Now, it not only pointed the scam as a whole, but also pointed out several loopholes in our corporate governance system. Now, this also pointed to the importance of standards on auditing. It made us understand, it made it mandatory, just like Sir mentioned, it was made mandatory to follow standards on auditing. Stricter provisions were brought in eventually. Now, if you see 2013 Companies Act, there were many provisions, there were many sections that actually directed towards mandatory following of standards on auditing. Now, we shall also move on to certain areas or certain sections where these are mentioned. Now, Section 143, Subsection 9 of the Companies Act, as we all know, Section 143 is the section where we deal with the duties of the auditors, and it's one of the major duties of an auditor to follow auditing standards. Auditing standards must be complied by the auditor. Now, the next section is Section 143, Subsection 2, the same subsection of the Companies Act 2013, which states that the audit report that is given by an auditor needs to be complied or needs to be made by taking into account the auditing standards. So basically states that you have to follow standards on auditing. Now, another section, that is another schedule 2 to the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, shows us that that person or the auditor shall be held guilty in case of non-compliance to standards on auditing. Now, from this, we shall move on to the classification of standards. Now, in order to mention or in order to explain this, I would like to take a small history class here. In the year 1982, ICAI set up a committee named the Auditor's Practices Committee with an objective to create the standards, a statement of standards on audit practices, the guidance notes, etc. Just like a standard, they wanted to create that. So in the year 1982, they set up a committee. Eventually, around 20 years later in 2002, the committee, the Auditors Practices Committee, was renamed as Audit and Assurance Standards Board. That's the AASB. And also, the Statement on Standards on Auditing Practices was converted, or that was renamed as Audit and Assurance Standards. Now, after a few years, in year 2007, these Audit and Assurance Standards were again renamed as Engagement and Quality Control Standard that we follow right now. Now, these engagement standards are divided into 6 parts. Let's see them. The first one is Standards on Quality Control, SQC. Second one is Standards on Auditing, the one that we are discussing now, SAs. Standards on Review Engagements, SREs. Standards on Assurance Engagements, SAEs. Standards on Related Services, SRS. And Audit and Assurance Standards, AAS. Now let's focus only on standards on auditing. Standards on auditing is was based on, just like our sir mentioned before, it was completely issued based on the international standards on auditing. Now, these standards are issued by AASB and they consist of 38 standards in total. And these 38 standards are divided into 6 different sections. Let's see that. SA 100 to 199, which talks about introductory matters. I'm sure not many of you have heard of this because in this group, no standards have yet been issued. So this is just a group that's been there, but no standards are there in this group. The next group is SA 200 to 299, the very important sections. We talk about the general principles and responsibilities. And that group consists of 9 standards. The next section is SA 300 to 499, which talks about the risk assessment and the response to the assessed risk. And this group also consists of 6 standards. The next group is SA 500 to 599, which is also very important, which talks about audit evidence. And this group consists of 11 standards. The next group is SA 600 to 699. As we all know, it consists of only 3 standards. It talks about using of the work of others. The next group is SA 700 to 799, which talks about audit conclusion and reporting, the last section or the last area of reporting or of an audit. And this consists of 6 standards, and there's one more group, that's SA 800 to 899, which talks about certain specialized area of audit, and this group consists of 3 standards. Now, every single standard is structured in a proper manner. It has basic elements, and that structure consists of introduction, an objective, the definitions relating to that section, the requirements of that section and of the standard, and the application and other explanatory material related to that standard. Now we're going to the last area, the last section of this presentation, that is the key aspects of standards of auditing. This is very important to understand that what are covered in the standards on auditing. Now the first key aspect is scalability. Now, just like I mentioned before, standards in auditing is mandatorily to be followed by the auditors of all companies, irrespective of its size, its legal form, or anything. Now, if you are a chartered accountant, if you are an auditor who is auditing a company, you need to follow the standards on auditing. If you are an auditor who is auditing auditing a firm, a trust, you need to follow standards on auditing. Every person needs to follow standards on auditing. Every auditor needs to follow this. And there are no separate standards for big firms or small firms or anything. It's all common. So everything is covered there. Now, the second one is risk-based auditing. As we all know, audit is actually based on risk. Now, just like we mentioned before, there are frauds. My friend is going to speak on that. And those are intentional misstatements. There are many kind of issues when you audit. There are several inherent limitations for an audit. So it's basically, it's our duty to give an opinion that our statement is free from material misstatements, but only up to an extent. The standard specifies that the auditor needs to give reasonable assurance, not an absolute assurance. So that is something that has been mentioned in standards on auditing. Now, the next aspect is professional skepticism. I think everyone in this room might be aware of this topic. The first thing that we learn when we get into the course, professional skepticism. It's a very special attitude that every auditor needs to maintain. The attitude to be aware, to be alert, an attitude of questioning mind that we need to follow throughout the audit in order to get all the evidences you need. That is the kind of the attitude that you need to maintain throughout the audit. So the next thing is professional judgment. The next aspect is professional judgment. Now, professional judgment is basically using your experience into your audit field. Now, the 3 years of your training, the articleship period, every single day you spend in your office, every single day, you get small information. You collect all that information. You make that experience. You collect all that experience and use it for your for your audit procedures or for your audit. You might have seen your principals when you go in front of them with a misstatement. Obviously, they're going to look at it and they'll be saying like, oh, you do this or do that. They know what has to be done for what kind of an issue. And that comes only through professional judgment. That is called professional judgment, and that comes through experience. And that is also covered here. Now, the next aspect that we are going to cover is materiality. One important aspect that is covered in standards on auditing. As we all know, every company has lots of transaction, and a chartered accountant or an auditor has very less time. So it's very important that the auditor should understand what are the material areas, the material misstatements, the material concepts that they need to understand. He needs to use his professional judgment in order to identify all those areas and then use them for the auditing and do all the professional and do all the audit procedures to that, and then get the report or get the opinion. So it's very important that an auditor must follow the materiality, and it's also covered in standards on auditing. Now, the next important part or the important aspect is audit evidence. Now, audit evidence is the base of auditing. If you don't have any audit evidence, then you don't have an audit. So basically, you need to collect audit evidence because it serves as an evidence. It serves as a justification for all the things the client has given in the financial statements. So whatever is there in the financial statements, you know that you need evidence to, you need an evidence to support all that. So that is something covered here. Now, next aspect is documentation, audit documentation. Just like Sir mentioned before, audit documentation is one of the most important aspects, because if audit evidence was there to justify what was given by the client, audit documentation is here to serve as an evidence, as a justification for all that work that you have done. If you have collected all the evidences, if you have collected and documented them properly, you can show them to anyone whom you are responsible to be showing. So it's very important that you document everything right from the start till the end through audit documentation. Now the next one is reporting. That is the last area, or the last aspect, or the last part of an audit, reporting. So that is our basic objective, to express an opinion and to report on the same. So it is very important that we report properly by conducting the audit properly and report on the same, and that is also covered in standards on auditing. Now, through this session, I was able to cover only a small portion of the whole standards on auditing concept. And this concept is actually a huge sea that I wish that every person in this hall needs to understand and needs to follow. Now, before concluding, I would just like to quote a simple quote that was given by John Ruskin, which says, "Quality is never an accident. It's always the result of intelligent effort." Now, with this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you so much. This is Nitin R. Jacob here. Thank you for this opportunity. Okay, sir.
Thank you, Nitina. The next paper is presented by Ms. Nidhi S. Kakkad. She's a CA intermediate level student who's a stock market enthusiast. The topic of her paper is the auditor's responsibility on reporting of frauds. Over to you, Nidhi.
Hello. Greetings, everyone. Hope you all are enjoying this evening. So to begin with, I have a question. With a raise of hands, can I know how many of you have the habit of reading newspaper every single day? Anyone? Anyone in the audience? Okay, great. So anybody who has this habit would agree with me that once you open up the newspaper early in the morning and go through all the articles, you get an idea of what's happening around in the world. So my idea of representing my presentation in this form was once we're done looking through all these articles, we'll have a fair idea of my topic, which is auditor's responsibility in reporting of fraud. So let's begin with the first slide. What is fraud? Fraud is indeed a very broad term. It does have many versions of definitions, but we will be sticking to SA 240, which is the auditor's responsibility relating to fraud in the auditor financial statements. What is the definition? So, an intentional act by one or more individuals, which would involve the management, those charged with governance, and also third parties or employees, which involves the use of deception to obtain an unjust or illegal advantage. I do know it's a very lengthy definition. That's why I've highlighted the points we need to look into, which is one, it is an intentional act, and secondly, it is by one or more individuals within the governance, employees or third parties. Now that we have fair idea of what a fraud is, let's move forward discussing few other aspects of SA 240. Firstly, the fraud triangle. What is the psychology behind it? Why should someone even commit a fraud? So looking forward, we can see three main things. One is pressure, second one is opportunity, and third one is rationalization. Let's look into each one of this with the example. So firstly, pressure. Pressure could be anything, a financial or any other pressure that a person might go through, which will lead them to commit a fraud. For example, there's employee X, and this person is working in a company and he's in serious financial trouble. And now this person has to get out of this debt. So he might think, okay, might as well just commit this fraud and quickly rescue my situation. That is pressure. Second one is opportunity, where you have a situation set up where there's no one to look on your work. So even if you commit a fraud, there's nobody to look forward. Third one is rationalization. These are personal justifications that come into our mind that it's okay to commit a fraud. This could be, for example, that I'm not paid enough in my work. Might as well just commit a fraud and compensate for it. These are the three predominantly most important things that might lead to a person committing a fraud. Moving forward, as she had mentioned, auditor's duties. Reasonable assurance, professional skepticism, and other duties. As she had already explained it, I wouldn't be going any further. Next, everybody has this preconceived notion that auditor is actually responsible to find and report frauds and everything relating to fraud. But the responsibility for prevention and detection of fraud primarily rests on those charged with governance and the management. They are responsible to make sure that everything in the firm is going fine and the atmosphere is in such a way that nobody would go to make a dishonest behavior. Finally, in case an auditor finds a fraud, how exactly should the auditor move forward? Firstly, the auditor should see, is the misstatement indicative of a fraud? If yes, then look into its implication. What implication does that fraud really have? And also the reliability of the management. And finally, this has to be communicated. With whom? Those charged with governance, management, and regulatory authority. This is a very broad topic, so we'll be looking more into it. Fraud reporting. So this comes under Companies Act 2013. And in case anybody is wondering where I got this picture from, you're right, I got it from our ICAI material. And yeah, so this whole fraud reporting procedure has been divided into two. Firstly, the fraud which is lesser than 1 crore. And second, the fraud which is greater than or equal to 1 crore. First, we'll be discussing the fraud which is lesser than 1 crore. So here, the auditor has to quickly, within 2 days, report this to the board or the audit committee. Along with that, he has to mention, one, the nature of the fraud, or with description, then approximate value. Obviously, we can't determine the exact value of the fraud because it's just been detected, but the approximate value of the fraud and also the parties involved. And the same has to be mentioned in the which has to be disclosed in the board's report. Now moving on to the fraud which is greater than or equal to 1 crore. Here, the first procedure is same, where within the knowledge, the auditor has to report it within 2 days to the audit committee or the board. And once that's there, they have to seek the reply from them within 45 days. Once they get the reply, then it's great. They can forward it, the reply along with their comments to the central government. In case they don't get the reply, then they have to forward their initial report along with mentioning that they haven't received any reply. With that, I think we did cover a lot of theoretical aspect relating to my topic. But what I feel is, to understand anything completely, it's always important to look into the practical aspect of it. Once we look into the practical aspect, we can connect the dot backwards and have a holistic view. With that idea, I thought of coming up with a fraud case where we can discuss only those parts which is highlighted in and relating to my topic. Here we go. So, Adidas had actually acquired Reebok in the year 2006. Even though I thought that they were actually competitors, they had actually acquired each other. And this case is about Reebok India fraud case. It's one of the biggest accounting scams that happened after Satyam scam in 2012. A swindle worth 870 crores. Because this case is very vast and has many versions, I would be restricting this only to the portion where it is relevant to the topic. So what really happened? There was a criminal case that was launched against Sukhbinder Singh and also Vishnu Bhagan. One person was the managing director, the other person was COO. And they allegedly set up secret warehouses and created fictional invoices. The two main investigating agencies involved were the Economic Offences Wing and also, as you can see, the Serious Fraud Investigation Office. And after all the investigation, this is what SFIO had to say, and I quote, "There was lack of professional skepticism and due care at the organizational level of the auditor, which was KPMG India and its affiliate auditing arm BSR, who is the statutory auditor of Reebok India." So we went through the theoretical aspect. We also looked into practical aspect. Now I have to recollect something. When I was in college, that's the first time I learned the subject auditing. My teacher came into the class for the first day and she wrote on the board, "Auditor is a watchdog and not a bloodhound." At the first glance, I understood nothing. But after like the 45 minutes of class, I could internalize what she really meant. But after so many years, I still have a question. What if the auditor, who is a watchdog, is in need of a bloodhound? What if the auditor is in need of someone who needs to go into the case, dig deeper, and find all the facts? That's where I rely on forensic audit. With the advancement in technology, the businesses are growing like anything, and so are the transactions. But with that, there's something else that's growing, as Sir mentioned, the frauds. Hence, it's very important that we need to curb these crimes. And I believe in the years to come, forensic audit is going to become important than ever. With that, we have come to the end of the presentation. And all I have to say is, to err is human. What does it mean? It means that to make mistakes is what makes us human. Every human makes mistakes. So do I. Hence, I would really appreciate everyone who's heard my presentation to come up to me and let me know your feedbacks, be it good or bad, because with that, we can all share, learn, and grow together. Thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi. Before we move on to the third paper, we would like to give a huge shout out to our event sponsor, Vivo Smartphones and Electronics. We have set up an experience stall right outside this hall. So if you want to know anything about the latest models or pricing and the pre-booking for the latest models, please visit them for more information. I repeat, there's an experience stall right outside the conference of Vivo. The next paper is presented by Mr. A. Praveer Gould. He's a CA final student. He served as a management committee member of Hyderabad branch of SICASA of ICAI for the year 2020-21. He won the Best Presenter Award in the CA Students Conference 2021, organized by Student Skills Enrichment Board of Board of Studies of ICAI, hosted by Rajkot branch of Vikasa of ICAI. The topic of his paper is Approach to Remote Auditing, Role and Precautions. Over to you, Mr. Praved.
Good afternoon all. Firstly, I would like to convey respect and regards to Govind sir, fellow student speakers and the attendees. It's an honor to have an opportunity to present the paper among these gems of the profession. We, the CAs, may become, the CA is just a qualification like a learning license for all of us who are into this profession. We may become CA in May or November, but you people who took the step to come to this conference, it's a great thing. Thank you for coming to this conference. So I'm going to present my topic on approach to remote audit, roles and precautions. So before starting the topic, let's have an overview of the session. Firstly, we're going to look what is remote auditing. Then we will try to understand what is the need for transition to remote audit. Then we're going to see the challenges which faced during the remote audit. At the end, we will try to learn what are the effective audit procedures required to conduct remote audit. So what is remote auditing? Remote audit is nothing but audit conducted with the help of technology using electronic tools such as video conferencing, phones, etc. to obtain audit evidence just like a regular audit. During this audit, auditor will continue to adapt standard auditing techniques like being open-minded, diplomatic, and maintaining confidentiality to continue the audit smoothly like a regular audit. Audit will be conducted independently with utmost integrity and professional skepticism. The main objective of the audit won't be changed even in the remote audit. Auditor will continue to ask all the relevant questions required to understand and establish the scope, timing, and direction of the audit. Audit procedures, which more importantly, he will assess the procedures which are required to continue the audit to provide reasonable assurance. So we understood that remote audit is nothing but a virtual audit or e-audit with the help of the technology. So now let us understand the need for transition to remote audit. Firstly, automation. When the world around is revolving so much that if you are not adapting the change, you are left behind. We, the auditors, we should ready to adapt the change and provide value-added services to our clients. The next comes low stress. We all know that auditing should not be an anxiety event. It should not be like that. With the help of the remote audit, we can reduce the stress to some little extent. Already our clients are preoccupied with many worries. Again, it should not be a worry to him to hosting us and helping us to do the audit by disrupting his daily activities. The next is improved document reviews. Remote document reviews helps the auditor to have a deep review of it and on his own pace. Even the auditor can take the expert advice whenever is required. Next, information in real time. With the modern auditing, risk analysis and continuous monitors, automation ensures that auditor would be alerted whenever there is an irregular event or any failure of the controls. Next comes low cost. The biggest advantage of remote audit is cost effectiveness. The auditee need not pay all our food bills, etc. for the conduct of the audit. So we claim it for our partner. The next comes, what are the challenges during remote audit? The first one is feasibility. For the conducting of remote audit, the main thing is the right condition should be placed for both of them. The fundamental one is technology. The technology should be available at both the ends and they should be able to use it consistently and at ease to operate the audit smoothly. This should be done prior to the audit. Then confidentiality, security and protection of the data. Proper measures need to be taken for securing the confidentiality of the data. We all know the importance of the audit document papers of the audit. The next comes first-hand information. We auditors has the sense to analyze the body language of the auditee even by looking at it. Though auditing is not an investigation, but I'm sure that we are not less than any investigator. Next comes increase in scope of fraud. As Sir said already, there is a lot of chances for increase in fraud with the help of remote audit. Remote audit. Lack of in-person interactions opens new opportunities for them to create new frauds and omit the relevant information. For this, to understand it, we may require to perform additional procedures. Now, let us understand what are the effective remote audit procedures. The organization must develop tailored strategies to perform remote audit. Because even in the remote audit, we need to deliver the same result as in regular audit. To conduct a remote audit, we need to take care of the following things. Firstly, we need to have pre-audit meetings. Then we need to plan the things. Then we need to execute it and report it at the end. So let's discuss about pre-auditing. The first thing is pre-audit is nothing but a meeting conducted prior to the audit. This is the condition. The meeting is conducted to gather all the preliminary information required for the audit. This helps the auditor to understand all the information which is required from the client's perspective. So in the remote audit, he will all assess what are the areas to be audited. He will schedule the audit and gather all the review and the background information, then develop the audit plan, then finalize all the administration details. The next comes the planning. Planning is crucial in every audit. This includes the discussion of scope and schedule of the audit. Auditor must allow all the participants of the audit team and the auditor's team to know the process of how the remote audit would be conducted. For audit planning, we need to take care of the following things. Firstly, we need to determine the objective, scope, and criteria very keenly, because at the remote audit, we may not fulfill all the details. We should be ready to accept some limitations. The next comes, we need to listen all the procedures which would be performing to get all the data required for performing audit. Then ensure if sufficient time is allocated for all the important areas which need to be covered and reviewed. Then we need to predetermine the tools which are to be used during the audit. Then now come the execution part. The first comes video conference. As we are not able to go to the clients, we need to use the tools like Zoom, Google Meet, etc. to replace the face-to-face interactions. Then we can use, for document sharing, we can use all the digital files using cloud and drives. Then for other source of information, alternatively, we can use all the CCTV footages, drones, etc. for having additional audit evidence. Then we need to align with Audit. With the remote audit, the remote audit can be conducted with all 24/7, but we need to make sure that both the auditor and auditee agree to some point of time to have the audit. So let us have a sample video of remote audit, specifically for the stock. Yeah, now the persons are going to the audit places and they're using the drones. The drone is sent to the stock places where the drone will collect all the data with the help of the barcodes. Then it will enter it to the dashboard. It will scan all the barcodes based on the stocks. Then it will process all the data which has been captured by it. Then they send whole data to the remote location with all the barcodes, pictures and everything. Then the report will be delivered instantly with all the places, what are the stock was placed in the remote and everything. This helps for the faster audit for stock audits. It can even create the VR images of the whole stock. Let's now continue with. Now, this is the sample audit working sheet. With the remote audit, we need to make sure that the working sheet should be very particular and updated really time to time. For example, as we took the example, we can take the example of fixed assets. We need to assign a responsible person in the audit team. Then what are all the documents required? Then when the data will be required. Because in our regular audits also, the main thing we delay is data collection. The auditor always claims that the data was served on time, but you delayed the audit. It should not repeat again in the remote audit. We should write the date when the data is received, then the status of the work, and we need to plan the start and end date. Accordingly, we need to plan our things and continue. So now comes the reporting part. The communication between auditor and auditee need to be clear and consistent, because it is very crucial during remote audit as we are not able to meet them. Every observation need to be discussed and validated before giving the final report. This will help any issues to be solved prior to giving the report. There can be debrief on the remote audit procedure to assess its effectiveness and identify the areas which need more improvement. Then now comes the last part. Disruption as new opportunity. as COVID has stopped everything, but we can take the advantages of it and move ahead in our lives. Remote audit is going to stay with us till some time in the future. Even though it's not new, but the urge to deploy it is increasing day by day to provide the more information fairly and professionally under this COVID circumstance. The now audit team need to adapt quickly more and more technology. As I was saying, we are not IT professionals, but with the advancement of technology, even though we are not IT professionals, we can understand the basic details which need to be read for our audit. The last comes with the emerging technology. Maybe all the limitations of the challenges faced in the remote audit may be reduced to zero, but it's the duty of the organization to decide whether to go for the remote audit or normal audit based on their business environment. Thank you for all your attention.
Friends, we've heard three wonderful talks. The content and clarity and the method and manner of presentation were outstanding. And I think with the limited number of people here, let's give the loudest possible round of applause through Nitina, Nidhi, and Pravet. It's really not easy. It's not easy. What you see from here, sitting on that side, it may seem very effortless that they are coming here and for 15-20 minutes making a talk on something which is so relevant and so contemporary. But what I'm sure would have gone behind the scenes is something, if they have a BTS video, we would all like to see what they were all up to late last night and rehearsing in front of mirrors or in front of friends and family and all of that. It's not easy to just come here and make a seemingly extempore talk here. It's not easy. Trust me, it's not easy on a technical topic. You can talk on something general, but when it's something which is connected to profession, where one word that goes wrong and many of you will react from the audience. Now, if they're going to say Bangla, if there's something technically wrong in what they say, then that's not something which we would be very kind on. As chairman, I would have also attacked them by saying, how can you say that? I would have said that. But I don't find anything where I have a line of criticism because it's all perfect in terms of content and delivery. Very important topics, as I told upfront when I spoke. The standards on auditing were very lucidly, dissected by Nitina, and she spoke about all the various important elements to it. But of course, it's a complete ocean, as she rightly said. It will take us at least a minimum 100-hour course for us to get anywhere near understanding it in depth. So doing it in 15-20 minutes is really no joke. Fraud, similar, it's another ocean per se, and now Institute itself is running courses on forensic, and there are other international ACFE, etc., is the largest association which does a course on frauds, and so many cases over the last few years. The list is endless. Nidhi spoke about the Reebok story, very interesting story. That story did not end there. It went on from Adidas. Some 4 million or so was what Adidas paid, and thereafter, after all this was unearthed, and employees thought it's the end of the road, and we all thought Reebok is dead. Very recently, we read that the Aditya Birla Group is taking over Reebok, something that happened, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So it's good to see that an Indian company is stepping in once again, like several, we've seen that with the Jaguar, Land Rover, and Arcelor and all that. We've seen some of the global iconic brands which are about to sink being saved by Indian companies. So Reebok is another story, but at almost a little over only half the valuation what Adidas paid for it many years ago. Now it's, I think, only about 2 or 2.5 billion is what Aditya Birla is paying. So that's that's peanuts compared to what Adidas had paid a few years ago. So that's what a fraud can do. It can break up the entity. It can crack open the valuations. People can lose jobs, and so many things. The ramifications are huge. And Satyam that we spoke about resulted in so many highly respected professionals also having to go to jail, including a very senior Central Council member at that point in time who was tipped to be the president at that point, the head of PwC, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, very respected professional at that point in time. He was the signing partner, unfortunately, of Satyam, and he was debarred by all agencies, including ICAI, had to spend a couple of years in jail, and very sorry situation. So that's That's how bad that story panned out. And of course, remote auditing, hopefully we see that as the solution for everything. But it has to, the whole process has to get matured with time. It's not going to be an overnight. We are not in a position to do wonders with remote audit, but probably thanks to the pandemic, we have all moved much faster. What we would have otherwise done in 10 years' time in terms of advancement, we have now done in the last 1 year. We've all become equipped, we've all learned, we are using software tools, IDEA and ECAT and so many other tools we are very effectively using these days because there's no other way. We had the comfort of physical visits earlier, today there's no other way. Technology is taking over, physical verification and all that. It was nice to see a small little video and in one of my client sites they used a drone actually to do the physical verification. So this is how technology is taking over and it's just in another year or two we will all be far more equipped to handle it, and I think it's more data analytics tools coming in, and the way in which the amount of time spent in vouching etc. can be reduced to minutes and sometimes seconds based on some of these new tools which are coming up, and artificial intelligence and Watson as they call it is something which is a very interesting tool which probably it's only a matter of time before all of us also implement these AI tools in our own audit methodology. So very, very interesting subject that we've had, and excellent preparation and presentation by all three of our young friends here. So good job all of you, and my good wishes to all the delegates here as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable feedback. Now, I request the session chairman, CA Vivek Krishna Govind, to present mementos to the paper presenters. First paper presenter, Nitina R. Jacob. Please give a huge round of applause. Niti S. Kakat. A. Praved Good. I invite the Vice Chairman of Ernakulam branch of SICASA, Mr. Krishna Govind, to present a memento to the session chairman, CA Vivek Krishna Govind. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Now we'll be moving on to our final session for the day, which is a motivational session. And before that, tea is available outside, so you can use this time, maybe 10 minutes for that. And after that, we'll be moving on to the final session for the day, which will be conducted by none other than our chief guest for the day, CA Jay Chera. We'll come back in 10 minutes.
Conducted by none other than CA Jay Chera. He is a Central Council member with admirable credentials, a charismatic personality, and immense knowledge. He has served as the chairman of the Surat branch of ICAI in 2005 and went on to become the vice chairman of WIRC in the year 2012. He has, to his credit, several degrees including BCom, LLB, MBA, MA Economics, and the list goes on. We are indeed blessed to be in your presence, sir. And the title for the session is rather interesting, which is, Who Says an Elephant Can't Dance? Over to you, sir. I request CA Salim Abdul, sir, to escort Jay Chera, sir, to the stage.
Good evening to all. After a good number of technical sessions and we learn about a lot of subject-wise, now we are going to listen a motivational speech, our own Jay Chera sir to motivate our aspirant students and get good knowledge about the practical aspect of our life and the profession. Over to you, sir. Welcome you, sir.
A very good evening to all of you. My dear friend Salim ji, who has actually organized this particular event for the benefits of all the young students, and my dear friends to be chartered accountants. Yeah. Once again, a very good evening. Well, it is a motivational session for me. I have to motivate myself. Well, see, friends, you know, in your life, daily new things keep on happening. Some good, some bad, some favorable, some adverse, some pleasant, some unpleasant. Right? Maybe on a particular day, I'm addressing a gathering of 2,000 people, and on the other day, I'm addressing a gathering of 20. Maybe. Right? But whatever the case may be, I think it is up to me how I motivate myself, right? It could have been like, oh, only this number of people, I'm not happy. It could have been. But let me put it differently. At least this many people are there who felt that, what is this topic? It seems something new, and maybe I'm going to get something out of it. So, let me put it that way. Well, the topic, how did I come to think about this topic? 4 days back, I was at Ahmedabad branch, and the chairman Ahmedabad branch is a very good friend of mine. I have some few branches where the chairmen are really very good friends of mine. Ernakulam is one of the branches. In southern region, this is the branch which I have visited the highest number of times, and I can name the entire managing committee. Right. So Ahmedabad branch chairman, he called me during this particular year 7 times. Generally, a single branch does not call you twice or thrice a year. But somehow this time, he had number of programs. He said, sir, we have a program, we are RRC, where we are training our young chartered accountants. So you have to tell them about the opportunities. I said, okay. Then they had another program for women chartered accountants. Sir, there you are required. I said, fine, I'll be there. Then they said that we have national conference for students and you have to be there. I said, fine, I'll be there. And he said, on networking, it's a very important topic and you have to come. I said, fine. So like that, generally, it's a rare thing for me also that a single branch calls me 7 times a year, but I did that. So he called me, sir, actually what happened when we were designing the program, we just remembered what you said last year, that don't keep any technical topic. No income tax, no GST. For that, you can have separate programs. So we called the students and we asked the students, what topics you want? So some students suggested, who says elephants can't dance? So we wrote it down. बोले, if you can understand थोड़ा हिंदी, बोले लिखने के लिए तो लिख दिया, फिर सोचा बोलेगा कौन? And then we all thought, everybody said your name, so sir, you have to come. I said, that's wonderful. The topic that you have given me is wonderful. And on the same day, I was in the morning at Rajkot. That is another branch which I have visited number of times. So I was speaking at Rajkot. From Rajkot to Ahmedabad, on the way, I had to decide what I'm going to speak. So I just thought about it. I made a PPT, and that is what I'm going to present. When Salim ji asked me, the original topic that was proposed to me was ethics in profession. And friends, ethics in profession is very important. Without any doubt, very important. Ethics, very important in your life. Personal life, professional life, everything. Some codified, and much more than that, uncodified ethics. It's very important, right? But I say, I don't want to discuss with young minds some technical things. What is missing with our profession? What is missing? We are not very much into innovation mode. I had discussed with Salim ji about innovation number of times. And fortunately, last time, they had given me for members the topic innovate or evaporate. That was for members. But that was a very innovative program. I'll tell you the reason. It was in that houseboat. It was in a houseboat. So at least one thing is sure. The participants cannot run away. The speaker is very safe. You speak out whatever. At the max, If they don't like your speech, they can only jump into the water so that you are in a safe zone. Well, so when he asked me, I said, see, I have not yet spoken on this topic, but Ahmedabad branch has given me this topic. Name is appealing. What I am going to speak, I don't know. What I am going to speak, I don't know. But if you feel so, you can also give the same topic. I believe that I'll get something in my mind. He said yes. So this is how the topic came up. Who says elephants can't dance? And believe me, it's a beautiful topic. Very beautiful. You might be a few students, but if you can pick up one or two things from this, I'm sure this is going to be something helpful. And friends, believe me, such type of topics are being discussed in MDPs, in IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, XLRI and all. And there, the fees is only 35,000 per day. Such type of topics are discussed there. Right? We chartered accountants hardly pay anything. I think 400, 500, 1,000, something like that. But there it is 35,000 per day. And such type of topics are discussed there. So believe me, the topic is something really, which is going to give a deep insight into what chartered accountants can do. I'm not going to talk about any books, believe me. I'm just going to talk about it, what young chartered accountants should do to succeed. I'm not very much interested in making you chartered accountant. That you will become. That as a board of studies chairman, I'm doing by study material and all these things. But I want you to be dynamic chartered accountants, and not only that, very happy persons, versatile, right, multi-talented persons who know how to live life. That is my thought process. So that is what I'm going to cover. Anyway, there is a book titled Who Says Elephants Can't Dance by Louis V. Gessner. He was the CEO of IBM, right? And I'm not going to quote a single thing from that book. As I said, well, if I had to quote something from the book itself, then you could have better read the book. Then why should I be here? This is just for your knowledge. What is the theme of this concept? Elephants not dancing. By elephants, one of the meaning is huge corporates, MNCs. Huge corporates. IBM is a huge corporate, right? Apple is a huge corporate. And what happens sometimes when you become too huge, sometimes your flexibility is affected. You are not flexible. And if you are not flexible, you do not succeed. When you are operating in different markets, then you require being flexible. See, if I start a food chain across the country, right, then maybe at Hyderabad the taste has to be different, little different than Ernakulam. In Surat it has to be little more different from both the places. If I don't understand that, then what is going to happen? I'll be slain. Let me give an example of that. McDonald's. Well, I'm not a very big fan of it, mind well. I'm not. I would have rather preferred biryani with you here than a McDonald's. But let us understand. When McDonald came to Gujarat, particularly my city Surat, in Surat, all the restaurants are vegetarian. All the restaurants are vegetarian. Very few selected places are there which serves non-vegetarian. So if McDonald had to come to Surat, initially for a decade, they only sold vegetarian. It was pure vegetarian. See the flexibility. Had they not come up with that Mark's idea, had they not come up with the idea, it would have been a disaster for McDonald's in Surat. Now what is happening? Slowly and gradually they introduced. After 10 years of establishment, they started with egg burger. Now people are used to going to McDonald's. Now they will say, okay, if you are vegetarian, you eat that. If you can eat eggs, you eat it. So the people don't mind. But if they would have started with that, then many of the customers would not have entered into the shop. Please understand that. So you are an elephant. You are an elephant. Generally, elephant can't dance. Right? So huge corporates, they cannot deviate from the strategies. So as a thumb, McDonald probably could not have deviated. But if you had not deviated, then it would not have got success in Surat and the nearby areas of Gujarat. Right? So please understand, the elephant had to dance. Right? Now everything is available in McDonald's in Surat. People have accepted it. People have started, see, slowly and gradually, people will accept the things. So, moving further, there is a book, a beautiful book called Elephants and Cheetahs by Saral Mukherjee. Saral Mukherjee happens to be a senior professor at IIM Ahmedabad. He has written a number of books in which this book is worth reading if you are going for strategic costing at final level. And you have to understand elephants and cheetahs. How? What are elephants? Elephants are corporates like cement industry, steel industry, huge corporates. Their fixed costs are very high. So operating leverage is very high. Here, if you really want to win, the mantra is use maximum capacities of your resources, whether it is HR, machine, time, whatever it is, maximum capacity, so that your fixed cost will come down. Your fixed cost will come down. That is where you win in such type of industries. These are elephants, right? You don't have too much of variations there, right? You don't have a blue color cement and yellow color cement and green. More or less, the products are the same. More or less, iron and steel products are the same, more or less, right? You don't have to change a lot. So elephant does not have to dance. This is what an elephant is. Cheetah is something like Zomato. If in Zomato, you plan out wonderful utilization of your HR, wonderful utilization of their time, you will be killed. Because you don't know when orders are going to come. There might be some time where, too many orders are coming up and you have to supply people food in time. In time. So you have to keep too much of capacity idle. Cheetah has inherent capacity of keeping idle capacity so that whenever it has to use, it can show aggression. So elephants versus cheetah. But once again, I'm not going to take you to this book. I'm just giving you a glimpse that there are two such books which cover something like this. And Salimji, and even actually you all my friends, he has written books on many things, including he has made a white paper on insects. You might say, what is he thinking about? He is one of the senior most faculties, and believe me, one of the best faculties I have seen. Very interesting. Very interesting. There are some few people, if you get an opportunity to listen to them, you should never miss. He is such a person. Right? So he explains elephant and then explains what type of business organization you are and how your strategy should be. He explains cheetah. Then he explained insects. And unfortunately, while he was explaining, I was trying to link it with proprietorship, chartered accountancy concerns, or chartered accounting concerns with 2 or 3 partners. And if you look into the insect concept that he has clearly put that such type of organizations cannot grow. That means after completing chartered accountancy, if I get into that trap, I might be the most intelligent person on this earth, but I cannot grow. I can only grow up to a certain extent. See what happens. You are too young as of now. As of now, you don't have that much money. Maybe you are dependent on your parents for that purpose, right? So even if you get 10,000, 20,000 rupees, you might be initially happy with that. Compared to your stipend, it is a good amount. Compared to your stipend, everything is a good amount, right? But, so when you become new chartered accountants, you're very happy. But what over a bit of 5 to 7 years? There is saturation. People are not growing at the pace at which they should grow. So that is what we discussed. Anyway, I'm not going into that. Moving further, let me come to the concept, elephants. Elephants, MNCs, right? Large corporates. Generally, large corporates have to be a little rigid. Because they have to capture huge markets. And they are branded. They cannot keep on changing their quality here and there. But time has come up. Even the elephants have to start dancing. So let me give some examples for that. The first example, when I am going to give you, it is going to pain me a lot. Indigo Airlines. They made me yesterday wait too much at Chennai airport. From Surat, I had a flight to Chennai, and from Chennai to Ernakulam, and they made me wait at Chennai too much. But let me start with Indigo. Friends, please understand, this is what actually chartered accountancy students should understand. My question to you is, why should as a client come to you? Oh, because I have done chartered accountancy. Then what I have nothing to do with that, boss. I am very clear about it. When, because of your advices, I am going to earn $1 billion, then I'll give you $1 million from that. I think that's logical. You help me in making billion, I'll give something like million. You file my income tax return, I'll give you 1,000. See, let us understand what we are not looking at. What is our actual future? Chartered accounts, we don't know that. We are very much entangled only into routine written filings. We are not moving beyond that. So now look at it. How this company, how it was an elephant and how it had to dance. So the story goes this way. It was a global meltdown 2008. Right? You know the Lehman Brothers and all these things. The world economy collapsed. Same naturally had to be in India. In Dubai at that point of time in 2008 I was there. And the properties prices that slashed by 65%. Dubai is a city with high leverage because it does not have any captive production or consumption effectively. It just connects the buyers, sellers and tourists. So it's a wonderful strategy with them. And now they don't have any oil. It's only Abu Dhabi. So during 2008, Dubai had to sell their Burj Khalifa to Abu Dhabi. That's very interesting. I was there in Dubai at that point of time. So many of the organizations invited me there. Sir, you have to come to Burj Al Arab. Oh, I'll come, fine. You have to come here. I'll fine. You are inviting me. I'm coming. And believe me, at that point of time, if you would sell one property in Mumbai at Marine Lines, you could have purchased 3 equivalent property in Dubai. Dubai had gone down to this extent. Now what happens, we learn leverage in costing or in finance, right? At intermediate level maybe. But we don't understand the implications of that. We don't apply in our real life. So Dubai is a very highly levered city. That would mean whenever there is dramatic change, then this time also, there was only one country which tried a lot during COVID to attract tourists. Which country was it? Dubai. Just look at it. Our airports are safe. Look at it, how they showed us, how they have shown us. Our airports are safe. You can straight away come, no human interaction, this. Because if the tourist would not go to Dubai, who is going to buy? If there is nobody to buy, who is going to sell? And otherwise, do they have agriculture? Do they have industries? What will happen to Dubai? Once again, there would have been terrible situation. So whenever terrible situation is going to hit for a longer period of time, Dubai is going to go down. One. Another city which is very levered is Las Vegas. Las Vegas, once again a very highly levered city. And another one, similarly in China, is Hong Kong, Macau. Right? Hong Kong and Macau. Of course, Hong Kong these days are there is with so many issues. Now what I'm trying to tell you is, Indigo. In 2008, when all the airline companies were into difficulty, right? Virtually all airline companies were blown out, evaporated. What about Sahara Air? Gone. Deccan Air? Gone. What about Uleo? Kingfisher, king of good times? Gone. All gone. All gone down. Only one company which should have gone down, instead of going down, it grew very fast. How come so? All were airline companies. Then what happened? How did you do that? Now my point is, I'll discuss some 3-4 points out of it. It's a case study. I can discuss so many points out of it, but we'll discuss only 3-4. Now my point is, if some chartered accountant had suggested these things and the company would have grown, tell me what would be the amount of fees he must have charged. But if I only do GST, what do I get? So this is what I'm trying to tell. For the younger generations, your chartered accountancy should not be confined to compliance services, but purely value-added services. That is where the cream is. And believe me, in that regime, in that domain, there is no competition. There are very few people who understand that. Right? You can just look at it. There are very few people always who want to understand. Others are good with the routine topics. So, what Indigo did? First, What they did is, they purchased 100 aircrafts. What? Are you mad? During depression, should you purchase? When the business is going down, would you purchase? Are you mad? But the answer is that data is not there in public, but unofficially it is said that, Salimji, it is said that they got the aircrafts as 50% discount. 50% discount. They studied that Airbus and Boeing, these are the two companies. Earlier in India, Airbus had good market. But because of 3 disasters over a decade, Airbus market went down. And Boeing was at the top. No company was purchasing Airbus. No company. So they said this is the right time. Airbus is already gone. It wants to enter into India, re-enter. Right? It wants to re-enter. Like Royal Enfield, it had to re-enter after a long time. See, as chartered accountants, you have to look at business. Royal Enfield is our business. Riding also. Right? So, they said, Airbus wants to come in India. Because of this huge depression, nobody is going to purchase aircraft from them. And naturally, as of now, if we negotiate, they can throw away at marginal cost also. You understand marginal costing. You understand relevant costing, right? When certain type of situations arise, then somebody can throw at variable cost also, ignoring fixed cost. It is sunk. So they got more than 50% discount on 100 aircrafts together. What they did? They sold most of them to a leasing company. So an aircraft worth rupees 100, you are purchasing at 50 and selling at 70, a few of them. So rest of your aircrafts are free. Rest of your aircrafts are free. And they sold to a leasing company and took it back. Sale and lease back. Sale and lease back. But why should a sale and lease back transaction the other company allow? The other company is going to allow because they have safety, security, and aircraft worth 100. They are getting at 70. These people are negotiated 100. Now you go in the retail market, 5 with this leasing company and 7 with this leasing company. So those companies have the security of 100. Against that you have to pay 70. So you are already, as a thumb, gaining 30. Plus you are going to get rents. And these are such type of companies who have huge funds from such countries where interest rates are low. And you are into a business with low risk. Because you are not going to have the flights, right? You are just going to lease it. Some of the other one will take you. So this is how they did it. So what happened? Suppose I am purchasing 100 aircrafts. Instead of 100 rupees, I am paying 50. And suppose out of that, 60, I sell at rupees 70. What has happened? 100 into 50, I have paid 5,000. And 60 aircrafts I sold at 70, 4,200 I got out of it. So I paid only 800 rupees. I paid only 800 rupees. For what? Which otherwise would have required 10,000 rupees. So it is only 8%. It is only 8%. Now do you understand? Elephants can dance. Elephants have to dance. This is where you and I are required, boss. Income tax audit is fine. That must continue. Show must go on. But for the new generation, this is the practice. Mind well. So this is the first thing. Second, what they did it. That was a time when they could make out most of the airlines are going to be slain. They were not cash rich. Cash crunch was there. And in finance, you have learned that most of the companies, because of liquidity crisis, they are slain. They knew very well all these guys are going to be slain. So, let me capture the market to the a B or C category of cities. How do you do that? Now, another interesting thing, once again look at it. Suppose there are 10 cities. Just imagine 10 cities on a circle. Now, all the cities have to be connected. What other airlines were doing? Other airlines, what they were doing is, they were linking one city with another city through one aircraft. The same aircraft would fly from, say, Ernakulam to Surat, Surat to Ernakulam, Ernakulam to Surat, Surat to Ernakulam, Ernakulam to Surat, Surat to Ernakulam, maybe, depending upon the distance. Now here, what you require is 10 C2 aircrafts, combination, permutation, combination. See what you have learned, I am applying actually. So the problem with us is, we only learn theoretically. We don't understand practical implications. Am I right or wrong? That is one of the reasons. Then we have to work with other people. But if you really can apply what you have learned, so you require 45 aircrafts. Some other company would require 45 aircrafts. Now suppose you say that, no, but for Surat and Ernakulam, we require only one flight. We require only one flight a day. So then the problem is Surat to Ernakulam, right? It starts from Ernakulam, goes to Surat, come back to Ernakulam. At least it has to be sent somewhere. And what about the stay of the people, your crew member and all? How do you manage that? So crew cost goes up. Crew cost goes up. Please understand. What this company did, Indigo. Indigo came up with hub and spokes model. In your cycle, you have spokes. Similarly, what it did is, instead of linking 10 cities, they put up a common city in center. This common city could have been Mumbai, Kolkata, right? Depending upon which city is more important, and second, where you don't have too much of traffic congestion. So maybe Mumbai is a very important city, but traffic congestion, oh, horrible. So maybe you might take Ahmedabad instead. Not that much of congestion. In India, traffic congestion is only restricted to 4 or 5 airports, Delhi, Mumbai, and some other airports. So you take some airport as a hub. Now look at the interesting thing. Now how many aircrafts you require? All these 10 city aircrafts, right? They will come to hub. And all will go back. At the hub you have got, so instead of 45, you require 10 aircrafts. This is just an example, not a precise example. Look at it. All the 10 are coming to hub. Passenger getting down and boarding another one. They will go back. Wherever these passengers are together, they will board that flight. If you can understand what I am trying to say. Suppose it is Hyderabad, which is the hub. So all the 10 cities, people will come to Hyderabad. Then they will exchange. There will be 2.5 hours of something like that. 2 hours, 3 hours of layover. Why 2 or 3? Because now you have only 10 aircrafts and they are flying continuously. Continuously. And what is happening? Because suppose there are 7 cities from which somebody wants to come to Ernakulam. All these 7 city passengers will come down to Hyderabad. And from Hyderabad, one flight, which is now full, will come to Ernakulam. So you are getting high, I can say, more number of passengers per flight you are getting. I hope you get my point what they did. Not only that, because of that, and because of the agreements they did, agreements, legal side, that is also our business. I discussed about finance, I discussed about costing, I'm discussing about this legal. The way they entered into legal agreement also helped them in saving HR cost. The interesting thing was, while other airlines, per aircraft, they had more than 180 employees. This company had less than 90. Interesting. Half the size and more effective. And they understood one thing. Suppose there is a direct flight from Ernakulam to Surat, maybe, and that cost 8,000 rupees. And there is some flight via Chennai, and it cost 4,000. Still Indians would pay 4,000. Indian wants everything good, but their paying is, up till now, Indians are reasonable in paying. So they said, why to unnecessarily go into expensive thing? They cut off the food, right, which was being provided unnecessarily. They cut off all other things. And then you just see how it has grown. And yesterday I was sitting at my city, Surat, on the screen, Indigo, one Go Air. Once again, Indigo, one Air India. So this is what Indigo is, right? That is interesting. So this is one example where an elephant has to dance. So tomorrow, if you have a client who is an elephant, right, who is rigid, if you can make it dance properly, just imagine what is going to happen to you. This is the topic. Let me go further. Another example. I have picked up only those examples which I felt I should discuss with the youngsters. They can relate. You can just look at it. No books, nothing. No books, no big theories about institutes, straight away business, right? Which actually we require understanding. Starbucks, somewhere in 1971 it started. 3 gentlemen started. And there was a period after 2000 when Starbucks was so popular, per day, 6 new outlets were getting opened. Per day, 6 new outlets were getting opened across the globe. And then came a period when downfall started. Huge downfall. Huge downfall started. So the CEO who had resigned was called back. Same as Apple. Same as Apple, right? He was called back. No boss, you have to come back. Nothing doing, you are required. Now you can understand from this how much important it is to have that intelligence, that wisdom, right? That strategy. So he was called back. And what happened? What happened? Elephant had to dance, but it was not dancing. You know, Starbucks. Why people went to Starbucks? For drinking coffee? No, that is not the case. That is only ancillary, right? Many people would go to Starbucks only with their friends. Some 3-4 college friends just sitting there, right? In India, still it is not very much a culture and it does not suit Indian pockets as of now. But if you go to Europe, if you go to US, the concept is 3-4 college students. They want to sit somewhere and Starbucks is the place. Or maybe, why not only 2 people having a light romance, right? So Starbucks is the place for that. And why not having a small business deal? For that also negotiation, Starbucks is the place. So that was the concept. Not only that, let us understand, India is still under the family condition. India, China are still something like families. Now instead of joint family, you have nuclear families, but at least you have something like families. Think about US person. He does not have a family like that, right? Many of them. They have very different type of lifestyles. So in the evening, suppose he's coming back home. Why should he go home? Who is there? Nobody. So what will happen in Europe or US? They will reach near the home, but they will not go to home. They will sit at Starbucks. And please understand, it is not a coffee which is important for them, but in Starbucks, people were trained, employees were trained, recognize your customers by name. Recognize by name, recognize by their taste, what they prefer. For instance, I've been traveling for last decade rigorously. Every alternate day I am in a different city. Every alternate day. I have not probably left out any city in India and even neighboring countries. I am the SAFA head. So I have been to Pakistan and Bangladesh and Nepal and China and whatnot, Sri Lanka and all, right? So gone to many resorts, many hotels. But Taj Group, when it comes to high-end Taj, right? They have Vivantas, they have gateways, they have high-end Taj. The type of hospitality they have, nobody else can imagine. For instance, in Delhi, our first choice is Taj Mansingh. When you just go there, see, look at it, elephant dancing. This is elephant dancing. The moment you go there, that Darban, you know, the door opener, he is telling you, welcome back. He does not say welcome. Somebody is coming, welcome sir. Welcome madam. You are going, welcome back sir. Now you like it. Somebody is concerned about you. The moment you go inside, once again the other person, bell boy or somebody, welcome back sir. Hope your journey was good. And you go to the reception. Before that, the receptionist is going to come up with the key. Yes, Mr. Chehra. How was your day? Right? He knows you by name. Right? You don't stand in a queue. Right? You don't have to fill up all these things unnecessarily. He knows you have come back. So he has the past data. He has all your details. Right? He has kept the room ready. And he knows very well. If you had asked him that in my room, chocolate should be there, then chocolates will be there. If you had asked for something else, he knows very well. If you have said that, no, not this soap, I want another soap, that would be there. He knows all these things, right? So just imagine, you are going and he is handing over the car. If you go to any other hotel, you have to stand in a queue and he'll say, okay, give me your I card. I will give it. Then he will take a print. All these things takes time. And then maybe you are required to fill in something. Nothing. And he'll immediately say, sir, should I send something to your room? Right? And that is complimentary. And that is complimentary. Right? So let us understand. That was the culture of Starbucks. Right? They were operating with semi-automatic machines because they did not want all the drinks to be the same. They wanted to customize it. And looking to the customers, there should be flexibility. Flexibility is what is dancing. Starbucks is an elephant, right? So that was happening. But what happened when more and more stores kept on opening? Against that, they had a problem with the supply chain, right? Can you imagine? They did not have enough potatoes. And in some of the outlets, potato chips were not being served. You might say, potatoes, what are you talking about? But boss, think about it. Thousands and thousands and thousands of Starbucks. How do you link with what part of the world? How you are going to procure good quality potatoes? Maybe sometime there can be challenges. This is a very interesting analysis. Here comes data analytics. Here comes costing. You have to look at the financial implications. So that was happening. And that gentleman came back. The graph was continuously going down. He very boldly went to the newspaper. On the front page said, we are closing down 2,000 outlets. Closing down, and said, because we want to focus on the quality, on our customers. And he removed all the automatic machines and brought back semi-automatic. People say, are you mad? The world is moving ahead. How can you step back? Well, no. I know very well what my customers enjoyed. They enjoyed that personal touch. I want to give them back the personal touch. So all the employees were once again trained. Boss, whoever is coming, frequently remember their choices, remember the name, have the courtesy to talk to them, right? All these things. Not only that, instead of huge advertisement in one way, what happened in Orlando, there was a huge, terrific problem, and life of people was ruined. Thousands and thousands of people because of some hurricane or volcano, whatever it might be. People were disturbed. So Starbucks called all their people to flock to that city. They had to stay there for 1 month and they have to rebuild the city. Said, we are concerned about our people. This is how they came back. So just look at it. Elephant had to dance. I am giving examples which you can relate to, right? Now tell me one thing. If I cannot give such type of ideas to my clients and I can only file income tax return, do I expect $1 million from him? How can I expect? Right? Once I have completed chartered accountancy, that means the world should come to me. What? How can it happen? Toyota, yet another example. Right? I'll be a little quicker on it now. I was in China. One of my colleges was in China. It was Lingnan Sun Yat-sen University. There I did my marketing management, and those days Alibaba was still a beginner, not a success. So the trainers of Alibaba were the trainers to me also, but somehow Alibaba was successful. At that point of time, we had a visit to Toyota. And the interesting, Toyota is a giant once again, an elephant. And it is Fortuner is an elephant, right? So now what happens, wherever this company goes, they, along with that, they ask for the suppliers of the raw material to go together. For instance, please understand now, you must not have seen that particular era. Salimji, you must have seen 2 or 3 decades back. When it was car, it was only Maruti. And that was also Maruti Fronti 800. And that also if you want to purchase, you have white, blue and magenta, only 3 colors. That's it. Whether you purchase or not, this is the only option. Right? We have come from that time. Now, people have different tastes. Now, in India, still people are purchasing cars. But in US, in Europe, it's a very matured market. Now, everybody has purchased in their life a dozen cars. So now what new you are offering? So customization. I want this color seat. I want this color. I want so-and-so CC engine. I want this, I don't want that. So, interestingly with ERP, they have done all these things. So, this is about an elephant dancing. Right? What they did is, when they acquired some land, when they asked from land from Chinese government invited them. Why don't you come here? So that, our people get employment and we'll get some business. Okay, we'll come there. But you should give us land at very cheaper rates. So Chinese people agreed. And suppose you require, say, X amount of land. Toyota demanded 3X. Why? In the internal periphery, it is Toyota. On the second periphery, the suppliers of material, like if you are producing tires, the Toyota will get a land for you also. You are making colors, paints, Toyota will provide that. You are making nuts and bolts, that also Toyota will ensure. So on the periphery. And on the outer periphery, the raw material for this raw material. Raw material for those products which are raw material for you. And there comes the concept of FMS, Flexible Manufacturing System, and JIT, just in time, which you have theoretically done. Which you have done theoretically. So what happens, CA students do it, but sometimes for the sake of examination. They don't actually understand the meaning of that. Can you imagine in Toyota, on the same assembly line, every car which is being manufactured in China or same in Europe, that car is different. Same assembly line, one car is Camry, another is Corolla, third one is Crista, fourth one. So how come the worker is so accurate that he will put the nut bolt of Corolla in Corolla only and not in something else? So that is FMS, Flexible Manufacturing System. Automatically, the moment there is a booking of car, right, it will go to the carpool company through the ERP system. It will go to the manufacturing unit, and manufacturing automatically will club all such type of things and will place the order for raw material, which automatically in turn will place order for their raw material. So within no time, without any inventory, zero inventory virtually, JIT system, these things will come up. And on the assembly line, what is going to happen? If the first car is Camry, then that particular body will come, right? Chassis will come, and by default, from this assembly line, only the nut bolts required for a Camry will come. No other will come. All this is as good as AI, artificial intelligence, something like that, right? Which has been coined now, but it has been happening. So is it not a wonderful example of an elephant dancing? I hope you get my point. This is just to tell you, this is what you and I are actually supposed to do. This is what actually we are supposed to do. Are we moving in the right line, right direction? That's the question. So, now another interpretation of elephant dancing. Well, I know your syllabus is also like an elephant, huge elephant. Think about direct access and you feel, oh, what a huge subject, so tough. And then you look at indirect access, then you feel, no, this is more horrible than this. Then all of a sudden you look at audit. Ye iska baap hai. Then you look at another one, IFRS. Then it is. So all 8 subjects. For you, the most difficult thing is to decide which is the most difficult. Right? That is what the syllabus is like, right? An elephant. So you are an elephant. I'll tell you one good thing. One very good thing. You are amongst some few selected youth. Why? People of your age, they are just doing mere graduation by only reading some books. As against that, you have done far better. Handling 8 huge subjects of CA is not a joke. And if you can manage it to crack it in a single shot, then at least you are above many people of your age. The purpose is not comparison. I don't want to be better than other. But what my point I'm trying to make is, you are an elephant in terms of knowledge. Within a short period of time, you have acquired huge knowledge on various disciplines, which can be a nightmare for others. So I think these are the compliments for you. Right? If you can do that, now in that case, when you are elephants, you are yourself an elephant, income tax and GST and all, then the question is, how is the life of a CA student? So many people feel that life of CA student is like this. Oh, I have articleship. Oh, I have to study. Oh, I have my coaching. Oh, I have such type of programs. Oh, I have to do this, that. Many times people feel. And many times parents also say, see, if you are going to join CA, forget your friends. Forget all other things. No outings, nothings. Be very sincere for 4 years. Parents say like that. Don't believe in them. They don't understand anything. So is it what the lifestyle of CA student is? No. The correct life of CA student is this. Look at it. This is life of a CA student. Let us understand. We are elephants and we can dance. I want a CA finalist to be excellent in all the 8 subjects, and it is possible. He can be excellent in IFRS and on dance floors also. He can be a wonderful photographer and be great in costing also. right? He can enjoy the game of cricket like anything, hitting high, and at the same time, he can be wonderful in finance also. If you are not having such things in your life, I think you are missing out something. You are missing out your youth. So I want chartered accountant students to be very cheerful. I also did it, boss. Institute did not exempt me from these subjects. I had to do that. And those days, what I was doing, in my city, there were no other people doing, no friends, no coaching centers, no books, like no internet, nothing. If I had to do something, from Surat I had to go to Mumbai, changing 3 trains. Last stop of Mumbai, stand in a queue for 4 hours, pick up all the, the study material weight of that. Right? And some friend will say, mere bhi le aana. So, that was an era. But I'm sure about it. I thoroughly enjoyed doing my CA, and my dance parties were on, very much on, musical evenings were on, photography was on, all other things were on. So my point is, why not? We are elephants, and why don't we dance? This is my another interpretation. When Ahmedabad branch chairman said, even I was not sure what I'm going to speak, but I thought, whom am I going to talk to? I'm going to talk to CA students. So let me just think from that angle only. So, moving further, another example of elephant is, India at the time of independence was divided into 562 princely states. Parganas, it used to say, 562. With different culture, different food, different language, everything different. How to unite them? It was a huge task. But this man was elephant. This man was elephant. He was determined. Here elephant means a man with determination. He said, nothing doing, boss. I'm going to unite them. Otherwise, what would happen? For coming to Ernakulam, I would have required a visa. Even somebody from Hyderabad would have required a visa. Right? Thanks to this gentleman, the entire country is ours. We can travel to any part of nation. We can stay in any part. Right? You can anytime come to Surat. You are most welcome to stay with me, and open invitation to all of you. So, this gentleman, he was elephant, and he knew that all these people are not going to come together. So there has to be a flexibility in approach, right? Somewhere you have to use your power. Somewhere you have to do some other persuasive skills. Somewhere you have to be soft and explain the other person. Somewhere you have to use other tactics. So he made different strategies for every different person and finally united everyone. Is it not interesting? Is it not an example? An elephant which danced differently at different places and served a big purpose. What about this gentleman then? Look at it in terms of knowledge, or whatever you say, spirituality. Is he not an elephant? Very much an elephant. But he could dance. Look at it. At different stages of life, his life was different. Right? With flute in the childhood or whatever it may be, and at Kurukshetra, you just look at it. Was it not a dance? Was it not a dance? Which actually states, I'm not into some religion or something like that. I'm trying to say that we have to accept that at different times or different situations, we have to be different. Unfortunately, sometimes I find that a CA student in exam hall also is very serious. In such type of hall also is very serious. Eating food is also very serious. Talking also is very serious. Probably in dance party is also very serious. That is not what he's supposed to do. So let us be elephants and we can dance. That's the theme. Moving further, our accounts itself says consistency. So elephant is consistent, it can go on the straight. It is consistent. But consistency is not rigidity. Account says that you cannot change haphazardly. But when there is requirement, you have some reason, right? Then you can change. So that is what is elephant can dance. Generally, elephant would not, but it is required to, right? Consistency. Now this is cho, cho, chu, chu. Now this is not Chinese by any means. It was a Bollywood film, Chori Chori Chupke Chupke. I'm not sure whether in this part you know something about Bollywood or not, but there was a film called Chori Chori Chupke Chupke. Why did I go into the film line? Well, the answer is, during this film, they could make out that there is some connection of filmmakers with underworld, D gang and all. So question was asked, the then finance minister Yashwant Sinha, he called the film producers and discuss with them. Why do you go to these people for financing? You are putting yourself into danger. Say, sir, there are two reasons for that. Number one, you are not accorded the status of industry to us. And second, our films are big budget. Your banks do not provide us any loans. He said, okay, fine. But then why do you make so huge budget films? 100 crore and 400 crores. Those days, 100 crores was a big amount. Right? But sir, what to do? What to do? But in foreign countries, there are some films, very small budget films. Well, there it is possible because they have multiplexes. We have theaters. Those days, multiplexes are not there. So if you have a theater with 1,200 capacity, then you have to make a masala movie where you have emotions and drama and action and romance and every damn thing, so that all type of audience you can cater to, right? So they said, if you really want that Indian cinema does not have a huge budget, then the screen should be small. Now, who is going to make small screens? Because those days, most of the films are making losses. Most of the theaters are making losses. So here comes, now look at it. Here comes section 80IE, 80IB, income tax. Just look at it, how I'm connecting all your subjects with the real life examples. Whenever I talk with youngsters about these provisions of the act and all these things, I link it with the real life. See what is. Income tax is not about only collection of income tax. Fiscal policy is not only about the public expenditure and public revenue. It is about channelizing the resources also. So what happened? Under 80IE, 80IB, you give that if you start multiplexes with 3 screens minimum, with so and so requirements, for 5 years, 10 years, you'll have deductions. So now people will come with multiplexes, right? Actually what will happen, in Ernakulam, somebody must be into shipping business, right? He will be earning 100 rupees from shipping business. From multiplex, he is going to earn only 10 rupees. So he would not be interested. But actually what is going to happen, he knows very well income tax deduction available for 10 years. So 100 rupees here and 10 rupees here. In accounts, he will show 10 and 100. Just look at it. 10 and 100. So capital is 110. But tax is only on 10. I don't suggest such type of things to you. But this is what people have done. Government also knew for some few years this is going to happen. But this is going to change the culture. And multiplexes started. And thereafter, I don't know much about Tollywood and what it is told here. But Bollywood has totally changed after that. Totally changed after that. Bollywood, which was an elephant, the same type of stories, now it is dancing. You have films like Wednesday, 3 Idiots, and many, many different type of films, which you could never imagine some few years back. Is it not an example of elephant dancing? I'm just taking up examples from some real life. This gentleman is popular in Bollywood at least, right? Now, why? He was also an elephant once upon a time. Huge actor. But then he was not getting success. He had the image of angry young man. Jao pehle us saath mein se sign leke aao jisme mein hath. Like he used to have dialogues like that. Now, over a period of time, his graph went down, down, down. Now what? He's wiped off. He became bankrupt, effectively. Bankrupt. At that point of time, he had to understand, I am an elephant, but I have to dance. He decided to come to small screens. Instead of movies, he came to KBC. And that was a turning point for him. Right? After KBC, he went to Yash Chopra. Please make a film and give me a role. And don't make me an angry young man. And then came a new theme, Mohabbat. And he started with a different type of look. And now instead of angry young man, a matured person. So he started dancing, accepting different roles. Maybe in black, right? Or maybe in Pa, or maybe in something, some other movie. The number of movies. So elephant had to dance. If you don't dance today, then even though you are elephant, you may disappear. So this is an example. By the way, CA Institute is far better than this gentleman. That is the reason. See, just look at it. If you are sitting on a hot seat with him, suppose you have given 6 correct answers and your 7th answer is wrong, what does he do? He tells you get out. He tells politely. But the substance or form is get out. In CA, CPT, when you give exams, MCQ, even though you have 1 mistake, 2 mistake, 3 mistake, 40 mistakes, they pass you. Just look at it. They don't say get out. Right? So here only one mistake also costs. Now, some few things about elephant, quickly just look at it. Interesting, you might not know, Japanese people have tried and worked on it, that elephants can roughly count. What they did is, they took 3 screens like this. On one screen, there was a picture of 5 bananas. In another one, 7, and third one, 13. All the elephants went towards that 13. Then the screens changed. 15, 12, 10, then towards 15. So from that, it could be made that elephants can count. That is interesting. One thing that we have to learn from elephants is, there are many people who are going to tell always that does not mean being rude. That only means there are so many people who are going to talk about you. Right? You don't have to just think about that. You just have a clear focus. More particularly, please understand this is true for Instagram and Facebook. Don't keep on looking at it. Who is liking you? Who is not liking you? Right? What is he doing? Where he is going? Today, has he gone to McDonald's? Or has he watched the movie? Or has he gone to the beach? Don't look into all these things. This is actually the meaning of this. Be an elephant, keep on walking. Just don't look at it what the dogs are doing. Right? Don't waste too much of your time on Insta and Facebook unnecessarily. Please understand that. This is what a youngster must understand. Well, one interesting thing is that how to differentiate an elephant of one tribe from another one. So from ears you can make out different tribes of elephants. Same we have to understand. You and I can be judged from our ears, our listening abilities, how we listen to people, how genuinely we listen to people. Even if the other person is wrong, he might have his view. How I listen to it. Be great listeners. That is what is the message elephant is giving. Rahul Dravid, is he not an elephant? No, not in terms of size. But look at it. An elephant, a wall, right? His name is a wall. He always stands with what we can say stability. Stability is his concept. But if required today, then he will hit also. So elephants can dance. You can be elephant. Most of the matches you will play in your own way. But if need arises, today you are going to dance. Or this gentleman, ABD. And this is also an interesting one. He plays so many sports for the same country and at the national level, which also shows you can be an elephant. So if he can be good with cricket, with football, with many games, why I and you cannot be wonderful with accounts and tax and costing and everything? See, if he can do it, why? Another important fighting. Somebody might say, no, they are aiming romance. Now, whatever the case may be, when I don't know what it is, I just clicked. Now, maybe they are romancing and I feel they are angry, they are fighting. So I tried to create an assumption unnecessarily when I was not required to be. So please don't make opinions on others. Right? They are different. The world does not look at everything the way you see it. Please unnecessarily don't keep on giving your opinions. His hair is so long, Such type of hair should not be there. Does it suit CA student? No, please don't opine like that. I'm just giving an example. Please understand, everybody has a different way of thinking. Unnecessarily, why do you want to create opinions? This is one very important thing. Let a person be the way he is. That also we have to learn from them. Another thing is, this also I clicked in Africa. And the question is, are we moving away from nature? Are we moving? Elephants must be dancing. We don't know what is the form of dance they have. They must be. We cannot understand. We cannot interpret. Probably we have been far away from nature. We have been too much into mobiles and TVs and all these things. Probably we are missing out the dancing elephants. So this is also one of the things. Youngsters, please understand. Cut down your time on artificial things. Believe me, you will be much more happier. I'll tell you the reason. If you are using your mobile, I tell you one logical thing. If there is a small kid and mother gives mobile in the hand of that kid, what is happening? Mobile is increasing your dopamine levels very high. Now, once you are used to a particular dopamine level, then you will get kick only after crossing that. Suppose you are having 2 pegs daily, then with 2 pegs, you will not get that kick. It is only the third one, the booster dose, right? With which you will get. And then, you want still more dopamine. That's why people start with tea, go to coffee, then start smoking, then go ahead and whatnot. That is all the game of dopamine, artificially. So what is happening with all regularly Facebook, Instagram, you don't know very well that it is only releasing some dopamine temporarily. It's a temporary pleasure, not a permanent solution of happiness like that. And you are very much carried into that. Now, when you are not into that, your levels are down. You don't get a good feeling. So only for 5 minutes of good feeling, you are missing out your rest of the day. This is what actually your Instagram and Facebook is doing to me, believe me. I am not against it. I have always been with youngsters. I am such a council member. Even in council, well, they have decided in national conference, there should not be cultural programs. I was the only person to oppose. I want my youngsters to be in cultural activities. But understand it, we are doing wrong to ourselves. Is said to be an elephant. China is said to be dragon. And the question is, can India dance? The answer is yes. Indian economy has all the potential to dance. The only thing is, I'll touch upon only one aspect, not the other aspect. The youth in India, they say they are an asset. But the same youth can turn out to be liability also. If the youth is productive, wise, right, then it is an asset. And the same youth with too much of this so-called dopamines, where they move, what is going to happen? There can be liabilities also. So it is in your hands. What is India going to be? That is lesser in my hands, more in your hands. One thing for the institute. Why should all teach students only? Why not institute? So, your ICAI is also an elephant. Look at the books and the syllabus. The syllabus is giant, like an elephant. Now there is a question to the institute. Are you going to continue with the same 20 subjects? Teaching us the same subjects, or are you going to dance? 15 subjects compulsory and 5 optional subjects, where data analytics can be my choice, where forensics can be my choice. Can you offer? That is the question I already asked there. I already made a draft where all these things are there. It will go to the council. I will not be in council. This is effectively my last month in the council. I am already moving out. But this is the question. I already made the draft, and which I have said that we have to dance. We have to dance. If ICAI is an elephant, it is time to dance. You don't have to teach everything to every student, income tax and GST and this and that. No. Rather think about it. If a student wants to develop himself into international tax, give him more papers on that. If he wants to go into core finance, then why do you want him to do CFA after CA? Why not to have the effect of that in CA itself? So, these are some thoughts. Why only you should tell the students, why not the institute? Right? So, institute also required dancing. And when you talk about elephant, we are sitting where? Right? Elephant here would mean spirituality also. And spirituality does not mean being serious. Whether you are in mosque or a church or a temple, if you see a serious person, by no means he is actually spiritual. He is only into procedures, religious procedures. Because if I am not happy, I can be anything other than being educated, other than being romantic, and other than being spiritual. Mind well. Mind well. If I am not happy, that means I don't trust the divinity. It's as simple as this. It is as simple as this. So this also. So when I was told elephant can't dance, what should be the interpretation? I said I'll come with 10 interpretations. So from different perspective, I'm presenting the same thing. Right? If you are not happy, happiness is the first prayer. Mind well. Happiness is the first prayer. I'm not elaborating much on that. And lastly, quickly, impossibility to possibility, converting. Elephants technically cannot dance. But what is impossible, if I can make possible in my life, then only I am doing something great. Otherwise, I am living a routine life. Right? I could have given certain examples, but for the lack of time, I'm just skipping. Finally, what I want to say is, elephants have to dance. The time has come up that elephants have to dance. Whether it is MNC, it has to dance. Whether it is you and me with high knowledge, we have to dance. Whether it is institute, in terms of syllabus, it will be required to dance. Whether it is the nation as a whole, it has to dance. Thank you very much for being such a wonderful audience, and thanks a lot, Salim ji and your team, for providing me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the wonderful motivation. What I can say, I will tell my incident. I was very sad about today's situation. And in the morning, I got one message at 9:46. Change how you see and see how you change. The message from our own Jaichara sir. That is the motivation I have standing before you and able to do this much of conferences. Every movement is a good movement. There is no bad movement. That is the lesson we learned today from this conference. Thank you so much, sir. And the lesson we learned from your speech is how can be a good CA, not worrying about due dates and all. In India, only one Jaichara. Like that, in future, there will be a lot of Jaicharas from this crowd, sir. We are hoping, sir. Thank you so much for the wonderful message and lessons which you have shared with us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for those insightful messages. Thank you so much, sir, for actively being involved with us and staying with us. No. Gave us energy to conduct tomorrow's sessions.